Hello, everyone. Thanks for making the time to join us this evening. My name is Michael. I'm the events coordinator and publicist at Annie Bloom's Books. For those of you who aren't familiar with the store, we're located in Portland, Oregon, in the heart of Multnomah Village. We've been around for 42 years now, and we are still plugging along. Our store is now open to limited browsing, just as of the past week. Just a few customers are allowed at a time. It's first come, first served. So you just show up at the front door and see if you're one of the two parties at a time who can get in there. We are open on weekdays from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and weekends from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we are there to answer the phone, reply to emails, and also to greet folks at the front door and help them find books if they are uninterested or unable to come into the store at the moment. We love to hear from people. It's what we miss most during the pandemic, is just talking to people about books. So feel free to drop on by and do that, or to give us an email or call us on the phone. And also our website is always open. You can shop day or night at www.annieblooms.com. We offer curbside pickup, local delivery within 3 miles of the store, and a couple of shipping options. We have some other great readings coming up. Since it's National Poetry Month, in addition to Kim, tonight we have John Brehm on Friday, April 23rd. He'll be reading from his new book, The Dharma of Poetry. And then we have a couple of other non-poetry events for the end of the month that are exciting. Portland author Jacqueline Keeler, his new book is Standoff, Standing Rock, The Bundy Movement and the American Story of Sacred Lands. Should be a good one. And a couple days after that, on Thursday, April 29th, Portland author Jutta Donath, whose memoir is Refugee, The Journey of an East German Woman. Tonight, we are delighted to be hosting Kim Stafford for the live stream launch of his new collection, Singer Come From Afar. Kim is joined tonight by singer-songwriter and poet Beth Wood from Sisters. She unfortunately has a visual problem, not herself, but a video problem. And so we just see her lovely profile up there, but she is here with us and we'll be getting audio from her this evening. And she has a new poetry book out called Believe the Bird. So she'll be reciting poems and playing a song or two for us. You can order both of those books by clicking the link that I'm about to put up here in the chat. Probably also seeing these links that Kim put up for his website and for various things that he's going to explain involving QR codes. And also Beth's website is up there. All right, so tonight there's going to be, reading, conversation, song, and then a Q&A session at the end. Feel free to put your questions in the chat and I can read them later, or you can come on screen during the Q&A session and ask questions. So Kim's new book is Singer Come From Afar. This book considers war and peace, pandemic struggles, earth imperatives, a seeker's spirit, and forging kinship. The former poet laureate of Oregon, Stafford, has shared poems from this book in libraries, prisons, on reservations, with veterans, immigrants, homeless families, legislators, and students in schools. He writes for hidden heroes, resonant places, and for our chance to converge in spite of differences. Poems like Practicing the Complex Yes and The Fact of Forgiveness offer tools for connection with the self, the community, and the earth. It is a given that you have failed, quotes, but the world can't keep its treasures from you. From the early months of the pandemic, Stafford wrote and posted a poem for challenge and comfort each day on Instagram and published a series of chapbooks that traveled hand to far places, to Norway, Egypt, and India. It's cool. He views the writing and sharing of poetry as an essential act of testimony to sustain Tikkun Olam, the healing of the world. May this book be the hidden spring you seek. Kim Stafford is a writer and teacher in Oregon and founding director of the Northwest Writing Institute at Lewis and Clark College. His poetry titles include A Gypsy's History of the World and Wild Honey, Tough Salt. He has published a biography, Early Morning, Remembering My Father, William Stafford. Let me admit this person in the waiting room. And we got here together a children's book and a book about writing and teaching, The Muses Among Us, Eloquent Listening and Other Pleasures of the Writer's Craft. Poems in this book have appeared in The Orion, Pilgrimage, Terrain, World Literature Today, and featured on the Writer's Almanac. His books have received Pacific Northwest Booksellers Awards and Citation for Excellence and the Western States Book Awards. Stafford has received 2 NEA Creative Writing Fellowships in Poetry and has taught writing in Scotland, Italy, Mexico, and Bhutan. He co-founded the annual Fish Trap Writers Gathering in Oregon, a very famous writers gathering, and teaches regularly at the Richard Hugo House in Seattle. Meeting another person. We also have with us Beth Wood. She is a modern day troubadour, poet, and believer in the power of word and song. She has been writing, creating, recording, and touring full-time 23 years, delighting and inspiring audiences with her exceptional musicianship, intelligent songwriting, powerhouse voice, and warm and commanding stage presence. When you're able to see her. In addition to her 11 solo albums, 1 duo album, and 1 collaboration live album, Beth has released 3 books of poetry, Kazoo Symphonies, Ladder to the Light, and the new one, Believe the Bird, a collection of forthright, shimmering poems that examine the stories we tell ourselves. Beth also released Facepalm, a whimsical collection of stories recounting some of the most awkward conversations she has experienced on the road. That sounds really good. Beth lives in Sisters, Oregon with her loyal dog, Bailey, and is continuously writing and rewriting her artist's manifesto. Please welcome Kim Stafford and Beth Wood.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Annie Blooms. I have to say, Michael, I felt very spoiled by Annie Blooms in the pandemic. I can call and a book will be delivered by hand. That's really old school. I love that. I love Annie Blooms. And I hope everyone gathered here is going to express their appreciation to the store by buying Beth's book. It's wonderful. I wrote a blurb for it. I want to start with just a tiny poem called Quiet Day. Dawn, day, gone gray. No car, no key, no place to be. No task, no mask, no fancy shoes, no news, nothing to lose. No greeting, no meeting. A quiet nook, a good book, a long look. No call, no knock, forgotten clock. Singing birds, few words, taking stock. Dusk, slow, moon, glow, let go. You know, poetry for me is a little spell, first to calm my own soul, and then to send forth in some way, the way Beth sends her songs out with her albums and performances, and I send poems out with Instagram and a book. As a kind of companion to someone else who feels like I do, longing for connection. And the stranger the world gets, the more important these messages we send to each other. Well, I want to read 2 little poems. I'm going to read 3 or 4 poems, and then we're going to hear Beth read and sing. We'll kind of go back and forth. This next one is one of the pandemic poems that I started putting on Instagram a little over a year ago. It's called For a Daughter in Quarantine. It's all so like a dream, as in my mind I drive the empty streets to find you across the river, turn east and north, all trees and wild blossom. In my mind I descend the steps to your basement den with food, drink, music. In my mind we sit together, your stories and mine. I'm old, may catch it, be gone. Or you, or both of us. It was always possible, but now we live in acceleration of the possible. I always wanted your independence, and now we have it. I here, writing this, and you there, in danger, brave. Child, girl, woman, it's okay. From far we live this day. I want to say she's fine. So far, so good. Uh, but I just, you wake up in the morning, what's on your mind? Well, for me, often worry, regret, anger, mystification, and writing a few lines down like that helps me turn toward what hurts me, what worries me, and then I feel a little better. Uh, well, I want to fast forward to a day that I'm longing for it to come. This poem is called Dr. Fauci's Smile. Dr. Fauci's Smile. Now we live for the day the good doctor can stand at the microphone, his furrowed brow softening, a modern renaissance beginning as a wistful Mona Lisa smile slowly ghosts his face, and he speaks the four-beat line, "We got through it." What does it take to get there? Shelter in place, lead a simple life, learn how little you need, and prepare to smile. I'm so ready. Boy, I see some friends here. I love seeing Bill Howe. Thank you, Bill, for all your support. Charles Goodrich, Corvallis, other good folks. I've quoted this. Oh yeah, there's Charles. I've quoted this to some of you before, but a big sentence in my life as a writer was spoken by my predecessor, the 8th Poet Laureate of Oregon, Elizabeth Woody, who's Navajo, Wasco. And she said at a reading one time, the more I do poetry, the less it's about what the poem is, and the more about who the poem serves. And this idea of who the poem serves, or for Beth, who the song serves. Someone is lonely, someone is discouraged, and then the magic of a song changes the light in the room. So this poem I wrote for a dear friend after she had lost her partner, and it was a time of asking a lot of questions. What was that story we lived together? What is my story now? And so this is called Song After Ishiguro, and it has a quotation from Kazuo Ishiguro, the writer. There was another life I might have had, but I am having this one. There is another life I might have had, but I am having this one. To glimpse the roads I never walked, my heart begins to spin. I carry wayward stories of all that might have been. If I were starting over, would I take this life again? Can I savor satisfaction for all I hold within? Win or lose is not the game. With every breath, begin. Those were the lives I might have lived, but this is the one I'm in. Song After Ishiguro. Well, I think, Beth, I'll read one more poem, and then we'll hear from you. This is from a little earlier in the season, before what my friend Steve Johnson calls the Oregon Symphony began, which is spring. Everything is just busting out in colors and damp leaves and all the beauty flowing toward us. So this was earlier when things were still gray, and I was feeling down, and I was out walking, and I saw this little plum tree that was just going crazy. It was just like a little kid. It was just an explosion of light. So this is called Foolish Young Flowering Plum. It's winter, dark days, still too cold for bird or blossom. dull sky, and all our hearts in shadow. But there, at a ragged cleft darkened by cedars of gloom, a flash of light cries out, the incandescent wisp of wild plum, far too early to be so happy, so naive, a child refusing to obey the rules of grief. Well, I think Beth Wood refuses to obey the rules of grief, and there's a line in one of her poems that I've always loved that sort of goes with that Ishiguro piece. It's hard to laugh sometimes, and yet then hard to cry, but what other way can there be? Beth.
Hello, Kim, and hello, everyone. I'm so sorry that this was the night my camera decided to stop working, but I assure you that I am here with all of you and I'm smiling ear to ear because I'm just delighted to be here. And thank you so much, Kim, for inviting me. And thank you to all of you. It's good to see your shining faces. Well, Kim asked me to share a poem from my book, Believe the Bird, and this poem was actually sparked by a Kim Stafford reading. I got to see him read along with some other poets at the old church in Portland. And the origin of this poem just illustrates to me what I've long suspected, that all art, just like all people, is connected. And art sparks art, sparks art. So this is called One Bead. It is hard, the poet said, to string one bead at a time, and my head nodded on its own accord. I sighed deep into my seat. Yes, it is hard. And that one moment in time, preserved in the amber of my imperfect memory, still brings the sting of a tear for the truth of this, the telling. It is hard, yes, to string one day, one breath, one sentence, one outstretched hand at a time, when sometimes it feels there can be no more. It is hard to move one cord of wood, but a fire in winter is a welcome guest. It is hard to string one memory at a time behind. Hard to realize memory is not straight lines, but balled up wires, and what can you do but laugh and shake your head thinking this will never come undone? It is hard to laugh sometimes, and yet then hard to cry. But what other way can there be? What rhythm, what balm, what holy song, but one tear, one word, one bead at a time. Thank you, Kim. Thank you for inspiring that poem. And speaking of art, inspiring art, I want to share a song that I wrote at an invitation from Kim. And I was it was such an interesting challenge to collaborate. He said, would you mind if I send you some lines from a writing workshop that I am leading, and then you can just live with those lines and see if it sparks anything. And so I did just that. I printed them out and I laid them all over my coffee table. And each morning with my writing pages and my guitar, I sat with those lines. And it's fun. I wrestled with them a lot. Came up with a lot of different things. And this is the one that stuck. And this is actually called One Step at a Time. And I wrote this song the morning after Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. And in my grief and sorrow, I needed to write something. And I was inspired by what she said about change and how it takes place one step at a time. And lo and behold, those lines were there waiting for me so I could finish this song. know your feet are tired. I know the time has come to take a rest. Go on and close your eyes. Let yourself melt into the tenderness. Who could have guessed just how far you would climb? Taking it one step at a time. We may be lost and scared, fumbling our way now in the dark, feeling so unprepared, trying to hold the faith and keep the heart. And if we keep moving, I know we'll be fine. If we take it one step at a time. We lift her up so high, so she can fly. One tiny hummingbird flew in to force the winds of change. And no matter what you've heard, it's not too early and it's not too late. She lit the way so we could follow behind. So let's take it one step. We'll take it one step. Let's take it one step at a time.
Oh, bravo, Beth. That's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
I think we can't see you, but I think you can see the tears here and there.
Oh,
Thank you. Wow. So this exchange, one person has a line, another has a song, and that grows into a book, an album, a performance, a change in a listener's life. This kind of the water cycle of the spirit moving through us from person to person. Happens in bookstores, libraries, schools, and even on Zoom. So thank you, Beth. Your tribute to RBG makes me want to read my tribute to Greta Thunberg.
wonderful.
The very old, the very young have something in common, that they have nothing to lose. You've got to do what your heart tells you to do. So this is after I heard Greta's speech at Katowice in Poland. There she was up at the dais with all these very serious do-gooders flanking her, and she really let them have it. I loved it. So Equinox, Greta at Katowice. Because they were rich and clever, all the ambassadors designed an echo chamber of glass and platitudes and took turns denying the future. And because they were old, only the next few years mattered. And so they pushed around tarnished words like chess pieces in their narrow grid: progress, growth, stability. Words any child could see were obscene, were a screen obscuring catastrophe. So Greta stood and showed them what maturity looks like, what truth sounds like, what leadership feels like. And then she went home to change us. I love being inspired by a song or the voice of a child. Neither can be denied. The last thing Yeats wrote in his journal before he died was, you can deny a political belief, but no one stands against the song of sixpence. There's something about a charm of word or song that is hard to deny. Well, part of my practice is to try to find poetry everywhere. And I was waiting for my MRI at OHSU. Everything's fine, by the way. This was a couple years ago. And they have you fill out a fine print of a long questionnaire asking all about your medical history. And I just became fascinated with this questionnaire. It had some really weird stuff in it. And as I was filling it out, I thought, tomorrow I'm writing a poem about this. So this is called Before the MRI. Do you have a pacemaker? Do you have an implanted cardio defibrillator? Do you have a programmable shunt? Do you have a deep brain stimulator? Do you have metal in your eyes? Do you have tattoos, piercings, a toupee? Do you have permanent makeup? Do you have bullets or shrapnel under the skin? Empty your pockets. No phone, no keys, no change. Lie down on this bed. Enter this tunnel. Close your eyes. It will be loud. Good luck. That's what the guy actually said as he wheeled me into the tunnel of doom. It's really great. So that led me the next day. I thought, hey, I'm on a roll, my medical sequence here. I had gone to my heart doctor, and he's this wonderful guy from Iran. Oh my God, he really knows his stuff. And we talk about literature and all kinds of things. And so he had his series of questions too. And the next morning when I was writing, I thought, well, I'm not an MD, but I'm a poetry doctor. And I examine my patients through something like the following questions. So this is called Poetry Doctor. How do you feel? How exactly have you learned to feel, to be touched, to apprehend? These twinges you have of compassion, empathy, or pain, how long have you had them? Have they grown more intense with age? Do they manifest at sunset, at dawn, in the presence of beauty, of suffering? Does your heart ever skip? Do you ever feel dizzy with delight or shame? Has the grace of a few right words ever blurred your vision, caught your breath? Has your heart ever become a drum when a song's words told you who you are in secret? I'm afraid my diagnosis must remain incomplete without further tests. Neruda, Basho, Dickinson. My prescription. my prescription. Well, speaking of Dickinson, I'm going to read one more poem, and then I'm going to ask Michael to let me screen share because I want to show you something behind this book. This is called Emily's Barefoot Rank. Her rank in the order of fame, ambition. My beloved wife, Perrin, gave me a book called The Gorgeous Nothings, which are facsimiles of Emily Dickinson's first drafts on envelopes. You know, she was so thrifty, she would slit open an envelope and then use the envelope to write her draft. So you see, and she kept a pencil about that long in her apron pocket. She'd take it out and work on the poem in the midst of some domestic task and then put it away in the pocket. So Emily's Barefoot Rank. She knew success, publication, fame would jeopardize the pencil stub in pocket, old envelope, taking the heart's licked fire beyond sight through incandescent nights, skirmishes of solitude and fevered union kindled in the breathless mind. Better step the side path, chanting hymns for cricket and grief, while the heedless world marches into dust. Well, who's the poem for? It's for Emily, and it's for every Emily soul among us. Okay, let's see if this will work, if I can share my screen. Yeah, there it goes. Okay, take me a moment. Yeah, it's working. Okay, I just wanted to walk through. Can you see that handwritten page? I just wanted to walk through writing process for me. I every day write a page that looks a lot like this. It has these 4 elements. It has the date. You know, I'm out in my shed early in the morning. I write the date to get my bearings. And then I write a little bit about what we did yesterday, the day before. I walk up Catherine Creek with Diane and Scott. Rosie makes it back from Mexico to her basement apartment and so on. Dear Diary, kind of get started. And this is important because I'm writing before I have to write well. You know, I'm not writing literature. I'm just writing, scribbling. And then, you know, I'm thinking about Catherine Creek. There was a little rivulet up there that got my attention. So then my third thing, date, diary, third thing, an idea. As the stream flows off the mountain in a certain way, writing flows from my life by the local geography of my character. You know, just this sense of the things I write are kind of inevitable, given who I am. My limitations, for example, help to shape the poems. And then that gets me thinking about the words. This was, you see, a little over a year ago. The words that we were learning, lockdown, don't mingle, you know, social distance, homeschool, Zoom, you know, these new words and phrases. And one of those was shelter in place. So then I'm off on a poem, you know, having sort of gathered memory and thought. Shelter in place. Long before the pandemic, the trees knew how to guard one place with root and shade. Moss knew how to hug a stone for life. Every stream knows how to move in place, staying home, even as it flows generously, outward sending bounty far. Now is our time to learn, singing from balconies, sending words of comfort by any courier, shining in all directions like stars. So, you know, that's my draft, and then my custom is type it up, change it a little bit, you know, fiddle around with line breaks and stanza breaks, and is there more I could put in there? Is there something I should take out? And then put it on Instagram, you know, my daily poem. So then it's on Instagram, and then a musician sees it, and commissions. This is kind of a spectacular example. Commissions the writing of a choral work based on this humble poem. Um, but I just, and this will be performed, by the way, by the Renaissance Ensemble on the 28th of this month. You can find it at Lewis and Clark events. Um, but I just wanted to go through the sequence from experience the day before, scribbling about it, an idea, where that idea leads, putting that idea forth on Instagram, and then letting it go. Okay, I want to read a couple more poems, and then Beth and I would love to entertain some questions. Hope you have some questions. You could put them in the chat, or you could physically raise your hand in a few moments, and we would call on you. Questions for Beth, questions for me, or each other. Okay, let me read the title poem to the book, Singer Come From Afar. It's out from Red Hen Press. And this poem began out at Fish Trap, the Fish Trap Writers Gathering in Northeast Oregon. That happens every July. It's online this year, but otherwise up at Wallowa Lake. And we had a wonderful writer from Texas, Naomi Shihab Nye, who just brings such light wherever she goes. She's seen very dark things. She's a Palestinian American. She's known many troubles. She's been with many troubled people. But she's so buoyant, and she seemed to me like a bird, a singing bird in a thorny thicket. So I wrote this poem for her. It's called Our Singer Come From Afar. Be our wren or warbler lit in willow, swaying with your tender weight of songs, sipping the sky to tell us hard things from far away, you freighted for our understanding and comfort. Sing the mysterious harmony of news and blessing, hurt and healing, offered with head high, eye bright, until with a friendly shrug you flit away and leave us strangely younger. That's how I feel when I've been with Naomi, strangely younger. So, Beth, let's pause and see if people have any questions. If they don't, I'll ask a question of you. Anyone? I can't see all the faces. Yeah, go ahead, Mai.
Hi, thank you so much for everything you're sharing today. And I love that you shared the example of your writing process. I was wondering how you and Beth met, and how does one become a poet laureate? What does that mean?
Beth, did we meet at Alberta Rose Theater, or was it the Winter Folk? Was that where
I
we met?
think it was either at Winter Folk, which was a lovely concert in Portland, or it could have been at Artichoke Music. There, you gave a workshop there,
Oh
and
yeah,
I
yeah,
attended that. So
that's
one of
right.
those in Portland, I think.
Yeah, yeah. The benefit, they had me up on stage singing a song followed by Beth Wood. It was one of my moments of great embarrassment, but what a privilege. So poet laureate, it's an ancient, kind of bizarre custom from Roman times where, the poet of the land would wear a crown of laurel. So that's why it's the laureate. And it's sort of, has had an official function over the years, like Tennyson was the poet laureate and would have to write dedicatory poems to famous people and so on, sort of a very, very elite. But in Oregon, it's a service job, and you can apply. Anyone can apply, and you propose what you'd like to do to bring poetry and literacy to Oregon schools, libraries, communities. And then a committee chooses someone, and then the governor, they make a recommendation to the governor, and the governor appoints that person for a 2-year term. And we've had some wonderful ones: Lawson Anada, Japanese American, Elizabeth Woody, as I said, Paul Ann Peterson, Peter Sears, and my person who followed me, Anis Mojgani. And you can find out about him on the Oregon Cultural Trust website. So go for it, Mai. Apply. I had to apply 3 times.
Is it the kind of thing that each state has their own system, or is it cities or counties or
It's very capricious. There's I met the poet laureate of Vashon Island, for example, and I asked her how she got appointed. She said, I was just at the farmer's market minding my own business, and this pickup truck pulled up, and a guy rolled down his window and said, "Hey, you write poetry." So there's a creative laureate of Portland who's a South Indian dancer, Subhashini Ganeshan. There's a creative laureate of Bend, Mosley Wota, a spoken word. Some states don't have one. California at the moment, I don't think, has one. It depends on sort of the activists, people like Bill Howe and others who get going and say, hey, our state needs this to happen. Let's get organized. So it varies. It varies a lot.
Awesome.
Thank you for your questions. Any other questions?
Kim, I have a question for you while we're waiting for other questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I love how in your writing, and especially in this new book, there are birds everywhere. And I grew up in a birding family, and so it's part of the way that I see the world. And I just wondered do you consider yourself a birder, and have you been for a while?
I am a bird. These are my kinfolk. No, I don't think I would have the temerity to call myself a birder, but I'm always, like today, I saw the nuthatch. Well, I'll tell a little story. On my writing shed at about 5:30, I've been hearing this tapping sound outside. So I went out and looked. The nuthatch was trying to make a hole in the wall of my shed. So I made a birdhouse and put it out there. And now the nuthatch is gathering material for the nest, and I saw it peeling bits of bark off the grapevine. So I went out and hung little bits of cloth, to help make the nest. So I feel like I'm kin to birds. But there's something about, I have a line in one of my poems, songbird guards a twig, its only weapon a song. And to have no hands, to have a song, to be able to clearly be a miracle by disappearing into the heavens, that's just something worthy of my regard. So I'm kind of obsessed.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, Kate.
Hello.
Hello.
I don't really have a question, but I wanted to say that I discovered you through the Writer's Almanac. And they published your Citizen of Dark Times poem.
Yeah.
And it meant so much to me that I memorized it right away.
Wow.
And yes, I love the line about the birds, songbird. But there is so much in that poem. I turn to it often. And then I also turn to a ritual to read to each other.
Yeah, my dad's poem.
Yes, those are both so meaningful to me. And I'm in Iowa. I'm your fan from Iowa. I follow you on Instagram.
Where in Iowa, Kate?
I'm in Des Moines.
In Des Moines. Oh, wonderful. I got to give a reading with Midwestern poet Ted Kooser. Yeah, and we got talking about the Midwest. My folks are from the Midwest. My mom from Nebraska, my dad from Kansas, and that's the Holy Land in my family legacy.
Yes.
that Midwest. That my someone asked my dad, "How do you like Oregon?" Well, it's okay, except the mountains kind of get in the way of the scenery. Because he liked that long look across the open land. Well, thank you. Yeah, my favorite line in Citizen of Dark Times is when you reach rock bottom, dig farther down.
Yeah.
Cava más abajo. A friend of mine translated that into Spanish. Okay, thank you for that. Good to have a fan in Iowa. Let's see. Read. They're saying read. Any other questions before we do just a couple more things here?
I was wondering if JK wanted you to read a favorite poem from someone else or one of your own poems. Do you have a poem from someone else that it's a
Oh
favorite?
yeah, I do. Do you have a poem from someone else, Beth? I'll do mine. This is a poem by a third grader out in Wallowa County, 1978. I was teaching in the school out there, and these poor little kids. I didn't know what I was doing, and I'd give a basically impossible writing assignment, and they'd try to be good and do it. And this time I'm embarrassed to even say, I said to the kids, "What if you woke up and you were really old? What would it be like?" And one little guy raised his hand and said, "You mean like 15?" I said, "No, really old, like grandmother old." "Oh, what would it be like? What would it look like? What would it sound like?" So the kids are all, gamely trying to write. And this little genius, Vicki Lynn Smith, she wrote a poem called "I Was Old." God woke up and he heard a dinosaur, and he said to myself, "How come he am in the old day? How come?" He don't know why. And then he came out of my graveyard, and he died again, and he loved to die young, and the end. And I just love how Vicki Lynn Smith has not yet learned that you don't say, "God said to myself." I actually like that better. God said to myself. So that's mine. I don't know, Beth, either one or one of yours, if you
Oh,
would.
I love it. Well, one that I've rediscovered lately is a poem by Marge Piercy called "To Be of Use." I love this one. To be of use. The people I love the best jump into work head first, without dallying in the shallows, and swim off with sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, the black, sleek heads of seals bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves, an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward, who do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire must be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real.
Oh, Marge Piercy.
I love that
Wow.
one.
Yeah. Yeah, that reminds me, Beth, of that something. I have a friend in Iran, a poet who says a poem should not satisfy your thirst, but deepen it. And a poem like that deepens my thirst to be in that realm more and try to understand.
Yes.
Yeah. The other thing my friend in Iran, Ali Takdera, said was someone asked me at a reading, what is poetry for? What can poetry do? The world is in such a state. What can a little poem do? And so I emailed Ali and I said, Ali, I've been asked, what can a poem do? And he said, he wrote back, that's the wrong question. The real question is, what can violence do? What can war do? What can hatred do? Poetry is oxygen. It keeps us alive. He's a great reader of Rumi. Well, Beth, how about if I read a last poem and you sing us a song? Would that work?
That sounds lovely. Thank you.
Okay. I want to read this one called White Flag Patriots. It's the first poem in the book. And as often happens, I had this thought out of nowhere, just this phrase, white flag patriots. And I thought, well, what would those be? What would white flag patriots be? The children went first because they had the most to lose. No color, no emblem on their flags, no shouting, surrendering instead as they shuffled toward the White House, some crying, some stern, a few singing lullabies their mothers had taught them. And in the rose garden where men were speaking into microphones, the children lay down in the grass to watch the clouds drift west until the speeches trailed off and only the wind was heard. Then white flags flashed in the wind as the children rose and sang together, "You have overcome, but we are not afraid." Beth.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Kim. I want to acknowledge Judith's question in the chat. She says, can you eat one of your favorite poems? I think that was a typo, but however, the answer is yes. I do often eat poems for breakfast. Oftentimes Kim Stafford poems. So thank you for inviting me to be part of this. I'm going to end with a song called This Golden Moment, and it acknowledges the birds singing at the window and also the sacredness that I feel when sharing poems and songs. And morning sun comes creeping in, songbird at my window. I feel this new day on my skin, brightness come from shadow. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Surely this must be heaven sent. Hallelujah, this golden moment. Coffee, blank page, favorite pen, words swirl in a whisper. Stillness comes, I let her in. There is music if I listen. Hallelujah, Surely this must be heaven sent, hallelujah, this golden moment. And when I'm all alone and scared to death, when the darkness comes to steal my breath, when I feel like I just can't go on, I will sing this grateful song. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Surely this must be heaven sent. Hallelujah, hallelujah. I close my eyes and drink it in. Hallelujah, this golden moment.
Beth, you have no mercy.
Beautiful.
Oh, I feel blessed.
Thank you. Me too.
Well, thank you, Annie Blooms. Thank you, Beth Wood. Vote for the good by going into a book buying frenzy now. Support your local bookstore. Go to Beth's website and support her habit by getting some CDs for yourself. And go forth and do good.
Thank you so much, Kim and Beth, for sharing your words and your songs. It was a really lovely evening.
Thank you.
We hope to
Michael,
see
for
folks
having
at
us.
another event sometime soon. I recorded this event, so it'll be up on our YouTube channel tomorrow, so you can share it with other folks who missed it. And thanks again, and have a lovely night, everyone.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.